But did the Veep just get in a little too deep? Vice President Joe Biden telling Newsweek, and I quote, "The Taliban per se is not our enemy," to Democrat Doug Wilder, who wishes Joe was no longer on the president's ticket. The former governor of Virginia joining me now, and to be fair to the governor, he was saying this a year ago ahead of all these faux pas storms here. But Governor, you were making a more general statement that he's just a weak link on this ticket. Explain.
Well, first of all, Neil, you look great, and congratulations on continuing to look great, and have a Merry Christmas. And all of you
too, Governor. Thank you very much.
Season.
Half of what you said was right, but I do wish you a Merry Christmas as well, sir. But go ahead.
Well, thank you. You go back to the reasons that Joe Biden was put on the ticket in the very first instance. It was supposedly because he had the great experience. He'd been there for years. He'd been in foreign relations chair. He'd been chairman of the judiciary and supposedly knew the workings of the Senate. Now, has that worked to the president's better interest, or has it taken away from the president? And the gaffes, it's not just a question of will Joe Biden make a gaffe? And incidentally, I like him. Personally, I think he's a fine fellow. But is he the person that you want in place? You know, you always hear that thing. Suppose something would happen to the president. Who would be in charge? Vice President Joe Biden? You've got to be kidding today when you say the Taliban's not our enemy.
Right.
I fought in Korea, front line. I knew who the enemy were. The enemy were the people who were firing at me and shooting at me. And so for some guy to come back and today, incidentally, to meet with the returning veterans and their families, and I don't believe he would tell them, oh, look, the Taliban is not your enemy. Just like they would have told us in Korea, well, you know, the Chinese are not really your enemy. They're just helping out the North Koreans. Get a hold of yourself, Joe, not just that. Look what happened just last week or so in Europe. When you go over and you make the joke, guess who I have with me? I have representatives from the Treasury Department with hundreds of millions of dollars. Are you going to give this money to us? No. And then what do you really have to say to those people who are suffering? Hang in there. It's tough. And so when you find these gaffes, the question is, who is going to be in place of the president in these instances? Last year I said that. You were absolutely right, earlier part of the year. You'd be surprised, Neil, at the numbers of people who now say, you know, the president ought to make that change. And it's not too late for him to do it. He could do it as